Welcome to We Have Spoken, Season 2, Episode 5. This is the podcast discussing our favorite Star Wars show, The Mandalorian on Disney+. I am Dennis. I will be your Force sensitive to Gruta for today, and we'll be discussing Chapter 13, The Jedi, which aired on November 27th, 2020. So with me, as always, I have my prequel apologist, Ricky.
Hello.
Welcome, Ricky. I just want to point out one thing before we move forward with this episode. Ricky, and an apology to Frank. We totally failed to mention T-shirt and jeans guy last week.
And he's out, though. He's already gone.
Is he removed?
Yeah, they removed him, I guess, as of yesterday.
I figured they were going to remove him. I knew it. But I feel bad for Frank because he actually did let us know before we recorded the show last week. He showed us the pictures and everything. And then we're all having so much fun, we just never remembered to talk about it. So apologies. It's not that big of a deal. It's gone. You know, shows mess up. It happens. Let's move on with our guest, who is also our wonderful producer normally. My wife, my best friend, and my fellow nerd. It's producer Lindsay here with us. Welcome.
Hi. So nice to be on this side of the camera.
Yes. I just want to point out, when we first asked Lindsay, she was really insistent on me trying to get somebody else because she didn't think she knows that much about Star Wars. And I just want to remind, this woman just watched like half of the end of Clone Wars, of the 7th season of Clone Wars, and watched 4 episodes of Clone Wars in season 5, and watched I think 5 or 6 episodes of Rebels, all in the last day to prepare for this. But those are, when I say watched, I mean rewatched, because she's already seen them, which is more than Ricky's ever done.
I saw the movie in theaters.
Yes, so did we. We did.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, we're all nerds, right? Like, regardless of
I know
how
what
we
happens.
enjoy things.
Yeah.
I'm just not really the Ready Player One style of nerd, where I can recite off people's names and dates and things like that. But that's fine. Yeah. I still like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Still enjoy the show. So happy to be here, guys.
It's fine. You're going to have fun. We're all going to have fun. And we're going to talk about this episode. And I almost spoiled it. I wanted to say the thing we were going to talk about.
Oh, no, start it. Yeah.
But I just remembered we like to give one brief warning before we go into spoilers. So let's really quick, just without spoiling, say what you thought about this episode. Like, did it make you feel anything? Did you like something? And then we'll get into the spoilers and tell everybody, go away.
For the limited amount of time I spent watching the Clone Wars and Rebels and the other shows, this episode felt like one of those shows in terms of the action, the amount of story that came with it. It was a very nice little package of expanded Star Wars EU, I guess, or EU, right?
I mean, yeah. Sure. I guess it's not really expanded universe. It is the universe, but it's the stuff that people don't necessarily see because they watch the movies only. Mm-hmm. What about you, Lindsay? What did you think of this?
No, I totally agree with what Ricky was saying. I felt like Dave Filoni definitely had the magical 10-gallon hat on for this one. Like, it definitely felt a lot like the animated shows. I can't talk a lot about it without spoiling. I did enjoy it though. So
I will say, as someone who is consistently on this show weekly saying, guys, go watch Clone Wars, go watch Rebels, like these shows matter to the story. I felt incredibly validated by this episode. and I felt incredibly rewarded by this episode because like everything that I'd put up with, like, I mean, they're not all great. Every episode of it's a cartoon. It's still meant for a younger audience and stuff most of the time. There's some rough episodes, but like on the whole, Dave Filoni has been in charge of all of them, and he's now co-running this show, The Mandalorian, with Jon Favreau. And so it makes total sense that he would continue his stories from his previous stories into this. And that's what he did. And for me, I just had a giant nerdgasm through the whole episode because I just got to see things that I didn't think I'd ever see in live action form, So
he was very I think very wise in what he chose to pull for this episode. I mean, in general, with the series so far, it's a nice way to kind of get you into that world, without getting into some of the crazy that happens in the shows as well.
And I hope that for everybody who watched this episode and doesn't know what the heck was going on, that now they'll go back and watch the other shows, because like that's Disney's whole process is like make all of Star Wars enjoyable somehow. Like if you need more stuff to enhance it, do that and then go back and rewatch, and now it's better.
Yeah, I think you can definitely still understand it even if you haven't watched those animated series, and it is like a very emotional episode in a lot of ways and atmospheric, and it does focus on relationships between characters. So I think it's enjoyable regardless.
I thought you said this was going to be hard without spoiling. You're pretty good. You're pretty good at this.
I mean,
all right. With that said, spoiler warning: anybody who hasn't watched the episode, including my mom, who for some reason, I bless her heart, is watching this show without watching The Mandalorian. You're not going to understand what's happening from here on out. But please go watch the show, then come back and watch this because we're about to nerd out and talk about everything that happened. So with that, I'm going to give you my brief spoiler recap of what I think this episode was. And then you guys let me know what you think it was, So I think this is the one where we meet a surviving Jedi and are reminded why it might be a bad idea to train Baby Yoda, a.k.a. Grogu, after all. What do you think? Did I miss anything?
I mean, you missed a person that showed up.
Yeah, but I mean, what? Yes, Ahsoka Tano showed up. But I mean, was that generally the point of this episode? Was we get to see Ahsoka Tano and then find out this thing that we thought was a good idea the whole time might actually be a really bad idea because Ahsoka Tano reminded us why?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much the show, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious too, like how many people were surprised by Ahsoka Tano being there in that episode. Like I know that we had kind of figured that out ahead of time, but I was like on Twitter this morning too, and some people were mad because they saw screenshots of her and had no idea she was going to be there or what she looked like. So I was kind of shocked.
That makes zero sense. They telegraphed it 2 weeks ago.
I know.
2 weeks ago. Like that's weird.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, starting with that though, I think her transition to live action was really well done. I dug her looks. The orange was the right shade of orange. That sounds weird to say, but she looked accurate. It was a really good representation. I know people are kind of pissed at her. What are the mandrels? The hair things.
The
Montrals are shorter, I think. But
on the top, or
the Montral are the horns.
They're kind of Clone Wars sized. I felt like.
But
not like Rebel sized, which were like longer.
I don't know. I watched a bunch of episodes this last 2 days, and I didn't really notice. She looked pretty spot on.
They were a little short, I guess, a little bit. Yeah. But I thought she looked great.
I like her Doctor Strange kind of esque outfit. That's what it reminded me of. Her, like the blue layered thing she was wearing.
Oh, I love like the white robe when she puts that thing on, and she has like the moon coming behind her and everything. She looks amazing.
Yeah, I think we're already talking about the light side, dark side right now. I just wanted to give you guys a chance to see if there was more plot wise that we missed. Really, I mean, we it was a fairly simple plot. The whole point of it was to remind us that Ahsoka Tano's there and that she's potentially still looking for General Thrawn and Ezra Bridger, which they didn't explicitly say in the episode, but that's kind of implied. And so, yeah, I think we all knew she was coming because we watched The Mandalorian. But for anybody who has not watched Clone Wars or Rebels, I kind of wanted to just nerd out right now to get it out of the way because I wanted to help provide some context for the rest of what we're going to talk about and just let people know who Ahsoka Tano is, because I know I complain a lot about I don't want no Jedis in my Star Wars stories because I get tired of Jedis. But I would say Ahsoka Tano is the exception to that rule. And only because technically she's not a Jedi, or technically she left the Jedi Order. So just let me give a quick history lesson. Ahsoka Tano is actually the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader, that was given to him as an apprentice during the Clone Wars. So in between episodes 2 and 3 of the movies, he receives a Padawan, and a lot of people are like, "Well, that's a bad idea because Anakin's kind of rough around the edges and stuff." But I think that's the whole point: is it was to try and help Anakin work out his problems as well. And in a lot of ways, she mirrored him, and she's very eager and quick to make decisions and stuff. And so the two were supposed to learn from each other. And as somebody who only used to recognize movies, it was hard for me to adjust to this character initially because I'm like, yeah, but she's just gonna die, right? Because she's not in the movies, and so you're waiting. So every episode of Clone Wars, you're just waiting for her to die. And like, I will be honest, for the first season or so, I kind of hated the character because she was just really annoying, and I just kept waiting for her to die. She reminded me of the dog in I Am Legend. You know what I mean? Like, the second I saw that dog in the trailer, I was like, the whole point of that dog is to have it die so that you can cry. And that's not fair as an audience, But they end up fooling me, and she becomes a really amazing character. She grows, she helps Anakin grow. He forms a bond to her. Maybe he shouldn't, because he's not supposed to form attachments. But through the process of the show, you find out that they have a better way of getting her off the show before the next movie. And it's that she is framed for a crime that she didn't commit. And when the Jedi Council discovers this, they are ready to kick her out, and she's going to get tried and executed and everything. And it's not until Anakin, who's the only Jedi who still believed in his Padawan, proves her innocence. They welcome her back into their arms. They say, "Oh, we're sorry, our bad. You almost got executed because we didn't believe you." And they're like, "You want back in?" And she says no, and she politely leaves the show. And that's actually where she goes away for the rest of the show. And as a viewer, I was like, "Oh, that makes sense," because technically, on a technicality, Order 66 is to kill all Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I can understand how this character can exist. But I can also understand why Anakin is more willing to betray the Jedi Order, because they sold out his apprentice. So it adds another layer of depth to Anakin and his story about just completely abandoning the Jedi to go be with Palpatine and stuff, because they did him wrong, and they did her wrong too. So she's a fun character that goes away, and then she's reappeared in Star Wars later in later stories in the Rebels. And the last we saw her, she was joining a Mandalorian named Sabine Wren, who is close friends with Bo-Katan, and they were off to go find their friend Ezra Bridger, who is another Jedi out there who saved his people by defeating General Thrawn and going into hyperspace somewhere else. So that's how it all ties into where we see Ahsoka today in this episode. She is looking for General Thrawn, which means she's still trying to find her friend Ezra Bridger. Hopefully.
I think you summed that up concisely.
I think I did that.
You forgot the space whales. I think space whales is like
we're not ready for live action space whales.
Plot point.
I think the space whales were something that you found a lot of entertainment in.
I did. I love the space whales.
I don't think they were relevant to Ahsoka's story. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly add about Ahsoka, and like, I think it was really interesting to hear your initial reaction to her, because definitely mine was a little bit different. Seeing her the first time, like watching Clone Wars with you, and I think because she's a female Jedi, and we really didn't get the opportunity to do like an in-depth exploration of a female Jedi really before this character. Like, she was pretty meaningful to me. Like, just seeing her on screen and having her be kind of an abrasive character, a well-rounded character, having flaws. Like, it was really amazing to see that portrayed on screen. So I was kind of rooting for her the whole time. And then seeing her again, especially portrayed by Rosario Dawson, who is one of my like actresses that I really love to see because she does tend to have those nuanced portrayals of female characters, was really, really impactful for me personally.
For sure.
I mean, Ahsoka's kind of a good heel to the Jedi for the viewers on exposing, I guess, the flaws of that system, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's the heel. I think she's the face and they're the heel.
They're the heel.
Yeah. No, that's the whole point of her character, and that's why she's my one exception after all this time in Star Wars, where I've grown to just be really annoyed by Jedi. She gets a pass because she's the one Jedi that totally understood the hypocrisy of them and totally had the strength of will to abandon their faith entirely and to just go out there and do good for the sake of being good, not for any other reason, you know? So she's still obviously a fully trained Jedi. She just doesn't necessarily follow their rules, which is fine, you know, because her path is her own path, and it's a noble path, you know? So I got no beef with her. I will say, to Lindsay, to your point, you just reminded me that I now need to make you watch the really, really short animated Clone Wars shows that came before the one that we watched.
Oh, those are really good.
Because those
I haven't seen those.
Those were done by Gennady Tartakovsky, I think is his name, the guy who did Dexter's Lab and Samurai Jack and Brutal.
Oh, amazing!
He did a series of stories called Clone Wars. They're really short, but every story focused on a different Jedi that was in that. And there's plenty of.
That's where
we got to learn all of the different ones.
Are they short? They're like just short,
they're really
mini
short.
Stories, right? So you're not like following a full character arc.
Correct. So you're still right. Is this in Ahsoka's the only one that's ever gotten that much exposure? I mean, to be fair, Ahsoka's gotten more story at this point than Luke Skywalker. Like she really has. Like so. But I appreciate what Ahsoka represents in that, you know, that she's a female powerful Jedi that's out there kicking ass and not listening to anybody that tells her otherwise, you know, like.
And she dual wields lightsabers, so that makes her
and
like
she
extra
dual wields.
cool.
Yes.
And white lightsabers, which look super awesome in this episode.
I thought they looked like fluorescent tubes.
I know, but like in a good way though.
Waving around.
I just want
to
point
all
out,
the light on her face, like when she's waving it, and they did that whole like moment with her like putting the lightsaber like in her face, and you're just like, oh, they just did that because it looks cool.
It's kind of because
I love it.
They probably were fluorescent tubes. Like, you know, the coolest thing about when I was watching them
Didn't
again.
They do that in the movie actually?
Yeah,
like,
I think they did.
Tubes. So I'm assuming they use kind of the same.
From the prequels on, they've been real lightsabers in that, like, it's a tube of light that they're using, and then they post-process, they make it brighter. The original movies, it was just a handle, I believe, and they drew in all the effects, and that's why like there's a big difference between the original movies and then later, because the later ones are actually a source of light, so you can see the light on the characters and stuff. And what I really thought was cool in this episode is you can see her lightsaber reflect all over the Mandalorian. It's really cool because he's got that Beskar and like he's got the visor and stuff, and you just see that tube of white just every time she
Was
uses it.
there a reason I was doing some research and I found she has 2 different lightsabers? I mean, there's
She's
2 pairs. One's like a katana type handle, and the other one has like the ball
yeah, it's just
at the bottom
her
of it.
style. She's got a short and a long, like a ninja. You
But there
know,
are 2 different.
It's like I think it's based on
wakizashi,
like
a wakizashi and a katana.
yeah.
No, but they're different. I've seen some
One
of
handle
her.
is a little curved at the end. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. She made 2 different lightsabers.
that's cool.
Yeah, that's her thing. But yeah, she used to have green ones, I think, and then she had blue
Yeah,
ones
I
at
think they
some
were green.
point. I know she had blue ones in the last season of Clone Wars, but in all the other seasons of Clone Wars, that she had green ones. And
Do you
then
remember what green means?
by Rebels, she had white. Lindsay, I didn't know they mean anything. It's just the
Oh. Well,
color of the
I
crystal
was
that they find.
well, I was telling you like because I played a lot of Knights of the Old Republic, like the Xbox game, and they made a big deal about the colors and like the meaning of the colors.
Yeah.
And I think they reintroduced that whole scheme with the Galaxy's Edge, like
Oh,
the
that's
Disneyland. Yeah, because
the
they have that
Oh,
lightsaber
yeah.
experience, and so then they start talking about the colors a little bit more. And I know like the white one, because I looked it up today, is supposed to mean she's taking like a middle path, so neither light side nor dark side. But I couldn't remember what green meant, like off the top of my head.
I think green and blue are generically the good guys, and red are always the dark side wielders. You know,
Because
but
Luke has
I
like
mean,
a blue one, right? I'm trying to
He has
remember.
the blue and
no,
a
he has
green
blue
one.
and then green. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Technically, it's Obi-Wan's, right?
Yeah,
or
I'm sure one
Anakin's.
of your
No,
like
He gets
no,
listeners
Anakin.
knows.
his first lightsaber is Anakin's, and then I think
And
his
then
second one's Obi-Wan's, something like that. Yeah.
Someone put the color key in the comments.
Yes, sure. Let's get people.
Color
Let's
key
get
in the
people.
comments.
We'll
Let's get
fire it
people
up.
interacting here.
Get fired up.
Yeah.
Can we
But
talk
yeah,
about Grogu?
yes, let's please do. I was just about to change the subject because as much as I loved Ahsoka, and I was super happy to get a full episode of her, dude, we got Baby Yoda's name, and I'm fine with it. I like Grogu. I think it sounds very, Star Warsy, and it like Ricky was trying real hard to spoil it for me the other day. And I'm just like, what? Just let it happen. It's gonna
To
play
be
on
fair,
the show.
it is a name that was spoiled for me, so that
No,
was an
it
accurate.
wasn't. No, was it spoiled for you, or did you actively seek out spoilers?
I like to go on the Star Wars leaks Reddit.
You can't say it was spoiled for you. You spoiled it for yourself.
Yeah, that sounded pretty
To be fair,
intentional, Ricky.
when I read that episode description, it sounded it was explained differently, so it sounded a little bit weird.
Anything out of context is always going to suck. I'm pretty sure I sound like a wackadoo for that whole Ahsoka history lesson I just gave. But, but
But Grogu was cool. It was cool that we got to learn a bit more about Baby Yoda.
He really sold that name too, because every time Mandalorian said it, that cute turn of the head, just like
I know, just like
oh my god,
just like a puppy, like a little puppy putting its ears up. So cute,
dude. The puppeteering on this episode was on point, man. Like we got to see him climb into his chair, like that was really impressive. And then later, when he's like walking out of the ship holding the little ball, there was so many moments that were just like, man, these puppeteers need awards for what they're doing on this show. It's really impressive.
No,
yeah. And from like a script writing perspective too, I think that scene was really important. And I've noticed that in the last couple episodes, they keep doing that. They like call back to something that has changed or that you've learned in a previous episode, like immediately before it's important. Like, for example, when he's climbing up in the chair, they want to show that relationship that he's built with the Mando, and that he obeys him, and then it becomes important later. And they did that with the Sand People episode 2, where they were showing him talking to the Sand People. So I guess shout out to that script writing. I thought it was pretty cool how they keep doing that in every episode, just to kind of remind you and get you primed.
Yeah,
it was just super yeah, his little emotions when they're going through kind of his little backstory. I guess Ahsoka's reading his mind, force communicating with him, and you, I guess she starts bringing up bad memories because you can just see his little face go down and his ears go down.
And then the dark memories. Yeah, like that was sad.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, because like we knew he was old, right? And I think last year I dated him to somewhere being around Anakin's age, which still sounds about right, actually. But man,
We learned he
what
was
happened?
there. He
Yeah,
was
what
at the,
happened? Yeah, he just barely dodged Anakin. You know, like somebody was nice enough to take him and roll out and say like, no, we're saving you before this happens. You know, so but that reminds me like that there was a lot of fun little like questions that got planted in this episode. You know, like do we ever get to meet the person that rescued Grogu? You know, like do we?
I mean, who brought
Uh,
him there?
And who's training him too?
exactly.
Because he's had
Yeah,
masters, like a
he
couple
said
of them. I think
masters
she
have
said.
trained him. Yeah,
Mhm.
How young do
but
they take kids to do Jedi stuff?
Pretty young, right?
pretty
Right?
young. Yeah, the
Like,
Yeah.
youngling.
This is your chance to
Remember?
talk about the prequels,
it's like
Ricky.
Yeah.
I just imagine
Talk
a
about the prequels
baby nursery at the Jedi Temple.
Well, I mean,
with Anakin like going in there, like, "Hi,
yeah.
kids."
I mean, we saw the younglings, right? Like they were little.
Yeah, but this is,
they were like 4 years
They're
old.
like
I mean, a
five,
4-year-old,
five or
5 year
6.
olds.
you
I don't
had a
know. I
life.
can't tell kids' ages
A
really.
baby, they were straight
Well,
up
I mean,
babies in there.
but I mean, we learn they just age differently, right? He's still a baby. He's just a 50-year-old
Yes,
baby. You know, like so. I don't know. I don't know how different his mental capacity was then.
I
All
mean,
I know is he was making animal noises until last week, and now he's full on making baby noises all the time. So it is showing that growth. So at somewhere around that 50-year mark, he's starting to get more cognitive capacity, and he's able to retain and like listen to his adopted father figure and stuff. And I'm just loving all of that. I think that's so cool. I also think it's cool that like Ahsoka, you know, was the perfect character to bring up that question that we hadn't been considering, which was if this kid has formed this attachment to Din Djarin, uh, is it right to teach him in the ways of the Force? Because she knows better than anyone, right? Her master is freaking Darth Vader, which you know he had way too many attachments. He was too attached to his mom. He was too attached to Padme. He was attached to Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. You know, like, and it got bad. And it's hard to say if that's the only reason Anakin went bad. But you know, I could see why there would be apprehension to want to teach Grogu based on history. You know, so I thought that was cool because that's another story that we're going to be, you know, diving into for the next season or 2 or 3 or maybe I don't know forever. Like we'll always be questioning now. Should we be teaching Grogu the Force? Is it worse not to teach him? You know what I mean? Like what's he gonna do?
Yeah, definitely some callbacks to like the original trilogy questions too, because I think like Yoda
Yeah.
kind of went through some of those same questions about Luke. Like,
Mhm.
if you have this raw power, is it better to just let it fade, or is
Yeah.
it better to teach you to control it? So it's definitely some interesting questions, and I
Yeah.
really didn't expect them to flesh out Grogu's backstory in that way this episode. So it was a really like nice surprise for
Yeah.
me.
And then the other question, you know, is you gotta actually actively question everything Ahsoka's saying with regards to that too, because she's
She's a bit,
spouting off
yeah.
Jedi teachings, right? Which she's actively rejected. So maybe it's wrong to dismiss teaching this kid because you know, maybe it's Yoda's approach to Anakin that is the reason Anakin ended up
the
all
way, yeah.
messed up. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe he just needs tender love and a dad there with him the whole time. You know, so I don't know. I really
Ooh.
I adored their fetch session. You know, and how proud Mando was when he pulled the ball towards him, and you know, like you can see the emotion in him even with that stupid helmet on. It's so amazing. Yeah,
I'll still,
cool.
I guess, a little light side, dark side. I didn't really like how the end of that episode, Mando was kind of just content with, all right, there you go, take him.
Well, he was not. There was a whole sequence where he was trying to work up saying goodbye to that kid, and you saw there was a passage of time that happened.
Yeah,
where he's
the baby was like in the hammock, and
he was holding him on his lap,
and time passed,
and then he was bundling him up to get him ready to go outside again. Like, and so much time had passed that Ahsoka finally just came to the ship because he told her, "Wait here, I'll go get him." And he just couldn't do it, right? He couldn't do it that as quickly as he meant to.
Yeah, there's a stiffness too to like the body language of the. I don't remember who plays the stuntman for the Mandalorian, but the whole body language too is just like very. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but like,
I would say what Ricky was missing was a clock to show how many hours passed. Like, because it was not a quick 1 minute thing where he went and did it. You know, like. The kid started going back to sleep, and then he let him go back to sleep for a while. You know, like
it's his duty too, though. That's the thing. Like, it's his duty to deliver the child to who can kind of teach him the best. He has this whole thing with like the foundling syndrome, I guess, and like how the Mandalorians kind of taught him as well. So I think he feels like he has to do this. It's like his fate.
Yeah,
but I definitely felt the emotion.
I saw him as incredibly conflicted in that moment, you know, because like he was doing what he was supposed to do because he still believes that following the way is the right thing to do. But his heart was telling him that it was sad. He was sad to give this kid up, you know, because that's his freaking kid now, man. Like that, it just is.
So many themes, so many fatherhood themes and duty themes in this one.
No, I loved that moment. Yeah. Do you guys have any other light side, dark side stuff? Because I think I kind of ate up all of mine. It was kind of a very quick to the point episode, you know, like, you know, there's the whole, the town of Kaladin is there, and, you know, the magistrate is the bad guy, and she has information, and, you know, it was very straightforward. I've seen that in plenty of movies and stuff. So
I mean, I don't want to be down in the episode. The final fight with the magistrate in Ahsoka, I mean, I guess it was more to Ahsoka's point to try to draw out that fight to get that information that she wanted from her, but she could totally murder that lady.
That fight. I love that fight because halfway through the fight, like, don't they stop to like talk? Or am I thinking of the fight with the Mando?
The fight with the Mando.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, but the fight with the magistrate, they cut back and forth between that fight and
I like that,
and the Mando
fight when you can hear him fighting. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah,
like, and they're just Mando's talking with the guy have a name? Kyle Reese.
His name was Lang. Yeah, played by Michael Biehn. Yeah, but I thought that was cool how he's like even like sounds like my side lost. And you know, like you could hear the fight going on, you know. Like, by the way, I just want to point out at one point the magistrate knocks Ahsoka's lightsaber into the pond. I checked at the very end of the episode, she has her second lightsaber, so don't worry guys, she fished it out of the pond.
Thank goodness.
Got it back. Yeah.
What did you think about the action in general, Ricky?
I dug it. I mean, this is some good like gunslinging Mando. Like, it was a solid Mandalorian or Mando episode doing Mando things. Like that again, that standoff with Lang was just like classic. He's just like, give me a reason to kill you, and of course he does. He pulls a gun on him, and same thing when he whips back around to kill the HK-47 droid. He was just on point. I liked the Ahsoka stuff though. I really liked that opening with Ahsoka in the woods and the way she's chopping through trees and throwing the chunks using the Force at people. Yeah. I liked how they, again, kind of cartoon violence. They show her slicing through that bell thingy.
Yeah, that was cool.
And it's cutting the bell in half, and there's a dude in front of it. So
that like kind of hurt me though, because that looked like this crazy artifact that she just.
But man, when in that moment when she's doing that, and then she's like force pushing dudes, and she's doing all these motions, like I was like, Rosario Dawson is having so much fun right now. Like that is like a dream come true to just be a Jedi on screen, doing all these crazy things, and then like she was having a blast. Like it shows.
She hasn't gotten to do a ton of action as like night nurse, right? Not yet.
Yeah. No.
No, not ever.
No. Oh, I guess so, huh?
No, she got those claws. She got those claws on that Luke Cage show for like
but they're not bringing her back.
She didn't really get to do anything.
Yeah. No, she didn't. She didn't get to do anything.
What might have been.
Yeah, but she. I will say, when I first watched the episode, because I watched it twice, the first time around there was a disconnect for me because I just watched so much animated Ahsoka Tano, and she is like one of the most nimble Jedi there is. Like she's just bouncing all over the place and everything, and chronologically, this one is only 5 years older than the last time we've seen her, like in Rebels. So, it's hard to make the argument, like, because Darth Vader, George Lucas always made the argument that, Darth Vader fights slow because he's super old and machine now, and Obi-Wan's super old and stuff, and that's why we never saw them fight.
I mean, she was moving around.
I'm okay with it though. Like we talked about this earlier, but like it's live action versus animation, so I kind of have to take it a little bit with a grain of salt, and like the atmosphericness of her overall fighting style was okay for me.
And I agree. Like on the second watch, I had more fun with it because I let go of the fact that I'm comparing it to a very stylized animated thing where they can just do whatever they want. But I will say they did get that atmosphere, because I totally felt both times watching it that when she was picking off all the bad guys in that town, that was straight up Batman. Like she was hiding in the shadows and just pulling them out one by one, and like they just, their fear meters are rising and stuff. Like they just had no chance against her, like not one. And then, like Din said, a Mandalorian and a Jedi, they'll never see that coming. And like, man, that town just got wrecked. Like they just, not a single chance. And that's why I thought it was so funny when that security guy Lang, like when he actually could actively hear his bread and butter losing on the other side of that wall, and he still tried to kill Mando. That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Right?
Yes.
Dude's covered in Beskar, so you have to get like a
what are you gonna
shot.
do? Yeah, that was stupid.
Oh man,
I felt bad that Michael Biehn went out like that, because he went out like a bitch. It was pretty. it was pretty dumb. Yeah, but. So the main stuff going on in the story or in the episode was fun. It was setting mood and stuff like that. But I think the real story was the Grogu, developments with Dan and like also Dave Filoni slightly pushing forward his Ahsoka Tano story, because you get to see that she still wants to know where Thrawn is and stuff. So that's cool. I do wonder where her friend Sabine Wren is, because the two of them were going off to find Thrawn and Ezra together last we saw. And
next episode, when they go to the Jedi Temple, we'll get Sabine too. It's going to be crazy. And space whales, just randomly, they'll just descend.
I will, if they do space whales, I'd be surprised, but I'd be down for
plushie.
It.
Space whale plushie, please, Dave Filoni.
We'll get space whales when
Disney.
Ezra gets his own show.
I have it also on my list, the foreshadowing spear, the Beskar spear that Mando gets at the end.
How is it foreshadowing? What is it foreshadowing?
So they're showing Beskar. They show in this episode that Beskar can, it's impervious to lightsaber damage, right?
Yeah, which I told you in the first season.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was happy to see that, because I was like, yay, validated again. Like,
someone fighting with the spear with lightsabers, it's like, okay, Mando's gonna use this to fight someone with a lightsaber, probably,
or a dark saber.
Perhaps.
It's kind of funny now. It's another thing he has to carry on his back.
Yeah, but we also saw him. Well, he keeps carried on the ship.
I'm sure he'll store it,
but we also saw him fully deflect that lightsaber with just his armor,
his gauntlets.
Yeah,
That
with
was
his
super cool.
gauntlets. Yeah, I was pretty happy with that.
That kind of just makes when Mace Windu killed Jango Fett, like the dude knew what he was doing.
I mean, he cut his head off at the neck, right, where there's no
Yeah.
Beskar for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that
Surgical.
brings up something that I I was talking to you about earlier today, Ricky, and I just want to clarify. So we did. There was, I mentioned there was a lot of seeds planted, and there is another seed that was planted when she said go to the planet Tython and go to the ruins of the Jedi of the temple, which obviously a Jedi temple. Go to the Seeing Stone, which is very force sensitive, and let Grogu find his own path, and
Mhm.
possibly if another Jedi is listening, they'll come to train him. And I started asking like, well, what Jedi are alive right now in this time period, and so we started, having our fan theories and stuff. Like, it's hard to say canon versus non-canon. Definitively, we know Luke Skywalker's alive. We know Kylo Ren is like a 4-year-old kid, like named Ben right now.
Yeah.
We know Leia has been trained in the ways. But other than that, canonically,
There's a
how
lot of like
many?
people that are there, but you don't know if they're
Yeah,
still alive or
we
whatever.
we're I'm gonna assume Ezra is alive rather than dead, just because we now know that Thrawn is alive. And the last time I assumed somebody was dead was at Bo-Katan, and then I was proved wrong, happily. So I'm gonna assume Ezra's alive. He's probably in his 20s or early, late teens, whatever. But there's not really other people. And then you threw out a name that I think is a pretty good one, which is, you were telling me it's going to be Mace Windu.
I mean, the timeline kind of fits in terms of Sam Jackson's age. And I mean, you don't really see Mace Windu die.
It's
He gets
true.
thrown off a building, and we've
I
seen a
think
lot of that in Star Wars.
I think a lot of fans would like that, and I think a lot of fans would like that closure to that character,
Mhm.
because that was a cheap ass death for
I
sure.
mean, they could like rework it where he's the one that gets Grogu. He's already on Coruscant,
What
but
do you think, Lindsay? Would you want to see Mace Windu come back to train Grogu? It
I mean, you're making me think this is just an opportunity for them to do tons of cameos. Like show everybody's like favorite Jedi
Yeah, I don't
training him
necessarily.
over time, which isn't like a bad thing. I'd be
Yeah,
interested to see what they do with it, I guess.
I think the only reason I think that the Mace cameo would be more than a cameo is that, from the prequels, which I don't really love to acknowledge too often, but I do love to acknowledge the Clone Wars show.
Mhm.
Mace and Yoda were tight, man. They were
Yeah.
constantly shown together. Like,
I mean,
those two were hanging out in like hookah lounges together and stuff. Like, it was just the two of them sometimes in their own little private quarters. And so I think it kind of would be cool if it was Mace, only because he knows Yoda better than anybody.
this whole season kind of feels like a lot of backdoor pilots. I mean, we know the Obi-Wan show's
True.
coming.
Yeah.
There's a rumored Boba Fett show coming. There's the other rumored Cara Dune and Bo-Katan show. So like
Yeah.
maybe I could see them like picking up this thread in the Obi-Wan show, like Mace Windu talks to Obi-Wan for whatever reason. It's like they're
Yeah.
kind of doing the Marvel thing of planting these seeds for other stories
Yeah.
in this one arc.
And they could be planting seeds that never grow into anything too, just to have us have these podcasts where we speculate on all kinds of fun things. And that's fun too, like I could be fine never seeing another Jedi on this show again, and I would still enjoy the show 100%. But if you did get Sam Jackson to do it one more time and bust out the purple lightsabers, I don't think I would say no to that. I think that would be pretty funny. um, maybe start having him say an MF bomb and then get interrupted by something else. And like, who knows? Do you have any ideas what you think they should do with that, Lindsay?
No, I mean, I'm just happy to see like where they take it.
Yeah.
I'm not huge into like speculating on the lore, so
Yeah, that's fair. I think, unless you guys have anything else that was a big high or low point, that we might want to get into the midichlorians of this episode, which is, when we talk about the small stuff that just doesn't matter to most people, but for some reason it matters to us. And I just wanted to see what you guys had to talk about that was little nerdy things that you thought was cool, unless you had something very, big that you still wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we actually covered most of like my little nerdy things, but one topic that I did want to bring up is just like the overall aesthetic design of this episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and
sure.
how they were definitely borrowing from a lot of East Asian and like Japanese influences.
Mhm.
And then also
Yeah.
personally for me, I got like echoes of the Dark Crystal with like the Landstriders in the beginning. I definitely got some echoes of like the Fire Nation and Avatar and the Earth Nation and just the design of that set.
Yeah.
And even like the little like the costume design, like the little
Mhm.
emblems on the cloak to like signify the magistrate.
Mm.
So I guess kind of the open conversation that I wanted to have with the two of you is, what do you think about those types of references? Because I know that it's kind of the history of Star Wars that they borrow pretty heavily from like Western and like feudal Japanese types of movies.
Yeah.
And like, when is it borrowing or paying tribute, and when is it kind of like stealing? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
They didn't paint any faces. So no.
Wow, that's a low bar,
no.
bro.
No, it's terrible. It's terrible to say.
That's the appropriation bar is the face painting. Oh my god, Ricky.
They had some good. I think they were very cautious of not to cross that line by going into. I'm trying to see if I just not stumble over words here. It was all visual, a lot of visual, but it was still ambiguous enough, kind of like how the Disney did the Aladdin, live action Aladdin. Agrabah is not a real place, but it's obviously pulled from different countries and cultures. So I think it was kind of that mixing and melding that Star Wars kind of lives in, where it's, you kind of know what it is, but it's still up in the ether on the specifics.
I think I have an answer to this question, and I hope you like this answer. So yes, we know that stealing or borrowing or paying homage is probably what George Lucas would prefer to call it. That's all in the DNA of Star Wars, right? Like it's actively, been stated multiple times that the original Star Wars movie is heavily inspired by Akira Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress, along with a little bit of Flash Gordon and some other stuff in there too. If you've ever gone to see, or if you've ever watched The Hidden Fortress, I did. I actually studied Kurosawa films in college. And yeah, man, that movie is 100% Star Wars without the Death Star run. It's pretty weird. But you see it, and obviously Lucas did a lot of different things with it. But yeah, he still stole. I think he stole. But here's the difference. If Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are acknowledging that is the DNA, and it is important to maintain that, but be respectful, then I think the difference here is that, unlike George Lucas, who stole from stories of feudal Japan and didn't bother to include any Asian representation in his stories at all, I think this episode did a very big leap forward in actually casting a lot of Asian people, like in the not only in the background but as the magistrate. Diana Lee Inosanto. I'm not sure if you guys are aware who she is, but she's actually a really well-respected stunt woman in the film and TV community, and she's also the goddaughter of Bruce Lee.
I mean, I don't think it's Mandalorian is probably has given us the first, like one of the first like female officers on screen in Star Wars.
I mean, they're doing a lot for
they're doing
diversity.
They do a lot of
inclusion and stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I think
fleshing out.
Yeah, I think having that guy that becomes the governor. I looked him up, and he's really not been in anything else before. but the guy that is trying to tell Mando, don't talk to me or my kids, because I don't want to die and stuff. And then later at the end of the episode, he becomes the governor. Like he's got a whole Asian family, and there's a lot of people there that are. I'm not going to say. I don't want to say they're there as tokens. I think they're there to justify thematically, like what they're trying to go for with that, the aesthetic of that whole environment. And I would rather it look like it's inspired by Asian culture and actually have Asians there represented within the town than totally bite off that and not have a single Asian person there. So I don't know. Does that help answer your question, Lindsay?
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting conversation to have. Like, personally, not being of East Asian descent myself, I don't really feel like I can speak to that community about what's appropriate or not. But definitely, I think there are good things and bad things. Like, I like the fact that they are pulling in like different aesthetic cues that are kind of also kind of already filtered a little bit through shows like Avatar. I do, there's something to be said for the fact that this is just like a one-off like planetary thing, and it's just like the aesthetic of that planet.
It's
I wish there was a little bit I wish there was a little bit more space to like explore that and like where those references are coming from, or like what the meaning of them is. And there's always room to do better, right? So I think they're not quite there, but I do appreciate the ability to like pull in some of those visual references to some extent. And then actually, like, too, if you look at the concept art at the end of the credit sequence, like, I'm actually always really into those credit art concepts at the end, because I like to kind of see where the production was going and like what they changed. And I thought the one of Ahsoka Tano with an Asian actress, like, to me, it clearly looked like an Asian actress was cast, and her wearing like kind of a samurai style pant.
She was definitely wearing samurai pants.
Yeah. So I just wonder about like that process of at what point did they pull that back or change that, or like what was the plan? But it's always interesting to see like where they're thinking of going.
They also had like the paper windows. I forget what that's called.
Yeah, it looked, the fight was very different in that production.
In the concept art, But maybe them toning it down a little bit was their way of saying, whoa, we might be culturally appropriating too much here, from concept to the actual thing that we saw. But yeah, it's a good question, and it's always something worth considering. But I think considering how underrepresented the Asian population is in general in TV or in film and TV, it was nice to see that this episode was taking more steps, and not just this episode, this whole season, right? Because like Mr. Kim is like a recurring character now on this show, and he's awesome, and people have he's got a lot of fans behind him, and I'm not sure if he actually does have a figure yet. I'll have to check that out, but I know people want him to have an action figure, and I want him to have an action figure. So I just it's a good question.
And more diverse. I think they're adding more diverse voices behind the scenes as well, from what I understand. Like, who's directing? Like, isn't Taika directing? Like, and he's
not an episode. He's getting a movie.
Oh, he's getting a movie.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. He's getting a full Star Wars movie.
And then, who's what's her name directing Obi-Wan? I forgot. He's show running that miniseries from. Okay. Oh, I feel bad. I forgot the name.
Shame on you.
It's okay. Dennis will post-prod it. I'm giving him like post-prod tasks.
Maybe I will. All right. Well, now that we've definitely talked about that really important issue, let's talk about the stuff that totally does not matter.
Straight from appropriation to midichlorians.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. If you know a better way to segue that, let me know.
Oh, you're doing great. Let's do it.
I just wanted to point out, I know this has no real bearing on the episode at all, and I know we mentioned it earlier, but freaking Michael Biehn is in this episode, and you just like I thought the thing I was going to be most excited about for this episode was seeing live action Ahsoka Tano, and then I got totally thrown off, and I was like, "Is that Michael Biehn?" And like, you don't
He just played
understand.
a cool guy. You know, that's his kind of everlasting, lifelong role.
Michael Biehn is like to when Mando is sizing up the threat that they have to go take on, and he says, and then they've got one gunslinger, a hired gunslinger. I think he reads as ex-military. That line is so funny because that is the career of Michael Biehn in film. He constantly gets cast as military. Like he is Kyle Reese in the Terminator movie. He is the main military commander in Aliens. He's the military guy in The Abyss. He's the guy leading the military team in The Rock that gets murdered in the showers. You know, like that's his whole job. He's like everything he ever does is military.
On it.
So it was just really funny for Mando to like give that little nod and say,
I dug his little
he reads his
armor.
ex-military.
It looked very like what General Kenobi when he's fighting in the Clone Wars. It looked like his kind of half shell thing he wore. I always dug that look. So it's even though it wasn't the right color, it looked very similar.
I see that. I can see what. It's a nod to the old show, the armors we've seen in the show. Yeah, that's fair. I will point out, like as I was mentioning, Diana Lee Inosanto, I thought her character, the magistrate, it was really cool. They gave her like a really quick backstory and talked about how like she lost her family in the Clone Wars, and then like she used that rage to build the Imperial Navy and stuff. You know, like she's like, okay, we just decided she's the one who made all the crazy Star Destroyers for them, and they were mentioning how she plunders worlds. And I thought that was a really key point because they never really talk about it, but like they mention twice that they go to the city of Caladan on the forest planet of Corvus. But when you see where Ahsoka's hanging out, that does not look like a good forest at all, right? It looks
kind of boggy.
By definition, there's trees.
It looks like she's the assumption is she's ravaged the forests, right, for whatever purposes they have, and so Ahsoka's hanging out in what's left of the forest. That's what I got out of it. I thought that was kind of cool.
Interesting. I actually didn't think about that, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah,
it was like very atmospheric. Like the whole set design of the forest and the lighting, so it was cool.
And I don't know if you caught it, Ricky, but you asked the question a couple weeks ago about like animals in Star Wars. You caught the owl. All right, you caught the owl.
Oh yeah,
I did some research on what the owl means.
The owl is important because the owl shows up in most stories with Ahsoka Tano because the owl is watching over her always.
It's that daughter.
So, yes.
I liked the big
daughter
space cow thingies, whatever those things were.
The things from Dark Crystal.
They're from Apex Legends.
The Landstrider things. Oh,
yeah.
Remember Apex Legends? I don't know those ones.
The first Apex map, there's a giant one of those on the map.
Gotcha.
Dark Crystal was first. That was in the 80s. All right.
Yeah, she's right. She wins.
Winner.
The HK-47 droids had the 7th Fleet logo on them. I don't know if you caught that.
Well, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. What's the reference? That's
Thrawn's fleet.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Gotcha. A little foreshadowing there. I didn't catch it in the first run, but
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't read Expanded Universe, so I only know Thrawn from Rebels. But I know that he was a famous character outside of Rebels.
There's new books. Timothy Zahn, right?
I think so.
Rewrote more books that are in canon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But
all I know about Thrawn is he's super blue.
Yeah, he's one of the few non-humans.
Blue.
He's one of the few non-humans that was accepted into the Empire, and he's ruthless. He's quite ruthless.
Mm-hmm. He has a very calm way of speaking.
He's like Spock, kind of, right?
Kind of creepy.
But he does speak with a British accent. I just want to point that out.
Just like Maul. Why do you guys hate British accents so much?
Yeah.
Dave Filoni. I guess it kind of makes sense. But
Who
you could
knows?
argue.
It's just canonical, right? It was in Star Wars, so it's got to be that way, kind of. I will point out something, and totally pointless. Doesn't have any bearing on the show. But what the hell is up with the Mando not locking up his ship every time he leaves it?
Like, that was hilarious. He just leaves it wide open
he
for
would just
anyone
leave
to
the door
walk
wide
into.
open.
He was in a good neighborhood.
He was in a good neighborhood. It's like a bog
with
in the middle of nowhere.
with all these trees dripping down and all the land strider creatures.
No,
wandering by.
I did not understand why he kept not locking the door.
It's so Baby Yoda can get back in his hammock whenever he wants.
Closes automatically.
Oh, he has the little key thing. Boop boop.
Yeah. I honestly thought that Baby Yoda was going to be gone at the end of this episode. While they're doing
no way.
You're crazy.
Because they're tracking the ship. The Empire's tracking the ship already. From last episode, they put the tracker on the ship.
Yeah, but they're gonna take you've seen how everything goes in this show.
It takes have 3 episodes of Mando getting the baby back.
No, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do an episode that's with Bill Burr, and then we're gonna do another episode that's with Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano coming to save Mando, because now he's got some very powerful friends, and
some Darksaber action too, a full episode just for the Darksaber.
Yeah, and then Sabine will show up.
Yeah,
and help Bo-Katan get her Darksaber back. Or and none of that'll happen.
On everything, just graffiti owls everywhere.
Yes. Or
he's
none
just
of that.
Go on more side quests.
Yes, or none of it'll happen. Just more side quests, and I'll be fine with it.
Sabine needs some paint cans or something.
Frog Lady needs to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, Frog Lady.
Do you guys have any more midichlorians? No.
Covered it.
No, a lot happened and not a lot happened at the same time, right?
Yeah, I think it
definitely knock on the episode, but
I think it definitely moved the story forward for reals this time, in that Mando actually got to go do the thing he was supposed to do, and we got to learn Baby Yoda's name, and then we got to get a new direction for where he's got to take Baby Yoda, and also it pushed Ahsoka's story a little forward too.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it really stretched it out. It took
I dug
a lot
the pacing.
of time.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of time. I
actually did really like
to tell
the pacing.
Those stories.
It felt a little, I guess, slower than maybe some would like. Probably not enough action, but I always appreciate when stories take the time to deep dive into the characters a little bit. So
yeah, anytime there's a lot of Baby Yoda in the episode, there's going to be less story and more just emotional connecting, and more
eating eggs.
Yes, yeah,
more
and small creatures.
So I was just really impressed with the puppeteering of everything, and really watching this relationship between Ahsoka and Grogu, and then Mando and Grogu, and and I even like when Michael Bihn's like, "What's that thing?" I carry it around for good luck. It was cute. It was cute. But I think it's time to wrap this up then, guys. What would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, fully being aware that a year from now this could be your least favorite episode ever, but right now in the moment, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this? Lindsay, go.
I tend to be a cranky butt on my scales of 1 to 10. I give this around a 7 or 8. I did really like it, but you could always do better. I guess it gives room to grow. Appreciated Ahsoka Tano showing up. Excited to see what they do next.
I feel like all of my episodes are either 7 or 8s, but I'll say an 8. I liked a lot in this episode. It pushed the story forward. We got some good action. We got some probably one of the better lightsaber fights that we've seen on screen. So I dug it. 8 out of 10 for sure.
Yeah, it's hard for me to not give it a high score, because it fulfilled a lot of promises that I've had for a long time, and it rewarded me for watching a whole lot of TV. So
it took a year and a half, and
I could give it an 8. I'm gonna give it a 9 because the Beskar deflected lightsabers, and because
That's the whole +1 is
and
the best
because
card deflecting lightsabers.
and because Michael Biehn was in it,
Oh, that's true. You were very excited about
I
him.
was
If
very
Sabine was in
excited.
it would have been a 10.
If
That's like a
Sabine was in that episode,
+8.
10. Oh, no, it would have been an 11 with Sabine in there.
She does crank things up to 11 for sure.
And I did get to just slightly get a tiny hint of a continuation of the Rebels storyline. So like I got a lot of juicy things in there, and I was really happy watching that episode. And so I didn't really mind that like the main plot of it was so, derivative and so simple, and like it didn't bother me because like Grogu was so we got his name, man.
Yeah.
We got his name, like that's done. That's a wrap on him. Like we now know his name. We never need to call him
Now I
Baby
gotta
Yoda
buy more
again.
toys. With
People are
Grogu
gonna
on
call
it.
him Baby Yoda until the end of time. The
I
child didn't
know.
really stick. Grogu's not gonna really stick.
Oh, the memes are gonna be so great this week. They're gonna be awesome.
People are gonna be so cranky about his name.
How many
They
dogs
are.
are gonna be
I
named
don't care.
Grogu?
Yeah. No, but I'm gonna give it a 9 because I really loved so much about it, and it really made me feel like a kid, or it made me feel like that big kid that was watching all the shows and pretending to feel like a kid when I was watching those. So yeah, Ahsoka Tano, man, like I don't need her to ever come back, but if she does, awesome.
Oh no, she needs to come back.
I don't need her to. I'm just saying, like
no, she needs to come back.
I know you would like that, and that's fine. I'm not going to be mad, but I'm just saying I am satisfied now. I am very satisfied.
As long as they don't do like some weird girl power thing at the very end where they have like all the ladies like come in and like save the day.
Sabine, Ahsoka.
They're gonna come.
Frog
she's gonna
lady.
come back, and they're all gonna. They're gonna come back.
I would love. Okay, if Frog Lady comes back, I will accept it.
It's
then
Frog
it's
Lady.
fine.
Frog Lady, Cara Dune, the Deborah Chow's rebel pilot from that one episode from The Prisoner, Sheehan,
and Bryce Dallas Howard.
And Bryce Dallas Howard. No, yeah, they're all going to show up,
village.
and they're all going to go to the Star Wars Mall, and they're all just going to go shopping at the Star Wars Mall.
Oh God, why are they going to the mall?
They got to buy the macaroons.
All right, let's move on now. No,
they got to buy the macaroons. I'm kidding.
And a female space whale at the mall.
That's what they ride.
All right.
Anyway,
with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to watch us be silly and make offensive jokes about Star Wars occasionally. Please feel free, if you liked it, hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to share this with anybody else that might be interested in watching us talk about this. And before we go, I just want to see if Ricky or Lindsay have anything to plug, if they want to let people know where they can find you. Go, Lindsay.
Yeah, I'll plug my stuff. I'm an artist and illustrator. You can find me at ccowsoda on Instagram. I also have a website at ccowsoda.com. So come check me out. I do very brightly colored, crazy stuff. And then I'm also a UX researcher who works with independent game developers. So if that sounds like you, feel free to find me and we can chat about your next project.
Ricky?
I got nothing. Ricky the Nerd is where you can find me on Instagram. Look at pictures of
Send
me and
Ricky the Nerd.
The stuff I do.
Send him like a ton of pictures of the Frog Lady just in like compromising positions.
Yeah.
That's my request.
Oh man,
for your listeners, please
do
just continuously.
I want the Frog Lady OnlyFans.
With Frog Lady stuff.
Send me those.
If you send those, I will add them. I will add them to next week's video.
Oh God. I don't know if you want to promise that.
I'm going to go on DeviantArt and look up Frog Lady now.
Please follow your social media's code of conduct when doing this. Thank you very much.
Yes. And with that, you can find me on Denx Media at YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, lots of different places. I'm mostly playing with toys and talking about Star Wars, so check me out. Yeah, thank you to Ricky and Lindsay. Thank you.
Thanks for having
Lindsay.
me.
All right. I think it's time for us to go. You guys know how to finish this one up. You have listened,
And
and
we have
spoken.
spoken.
That
Aren't
was
you supposed
good.
to like count that down or something?
No, I like doing it like that. It's just more fun that way.